So my talk is it up on the screen? Yeah, up on the screen, okay. My talk is about coping or otherwise with stage 4 melanoma. I'm really aware this is only my perspective, it's not everybody else's perspective. I've been lucky in my relationship that my husband has also had cancer, so I kind of get it from the spouse perspective as well as a personal perspective. And we both dealt with it very, very differently. So hopefully some of what I'm going to say will resonate with some people. Hopefully it will. So I'm going to talk a bit about navigating the challenges. I'm going to talk about the process of my diagnosis and the treatment I had. And also talk about the side effects of treatment and the fatigue management. I think fatigue is a huge side effect that I think quite a lot of us in the room do have. I'll then go on to talk about the emotional impact and managing anxiety, but also scanxiety. Having had my scans yesterday on the way here, I am scanxiety at the moment. And also talk about navigating the challenges of kind of carrying on living with stage 4 melanoma. So my diagnosis was back in 2017. I went to see the GP for other stuff, but I had an itchy mole on my back and kind of brought it up just at the end of my session. And she gave me the option of just taking a photo of it and coming back or being referred to dermatology. So I went to dermatology. The mole was just underneath my bra strap, and the dermatologist had a good look and took some photos and felt it was probably my bra strap rubbing on it and sent me away. I went back again 3 months later and staged a sit-in until he biopsied it. And it was found to be stage 1B melanoma, 0.9 millimetres. So it was thin. They weren't too worried. They said they'd do a wide local excision. I staged another sit-in until I got a sentinel lymph node biopsy as well. And wide local excision was clear, but the sentinel lymph node biopsy showed that I had a microscopic deposit just in one lymph node out of the 4 that they took out. This is in March 2018, so I missed the adjuvant trials, unfortunately, or missed the adjuvant therapy, so I was on watch and wait. And that was the beginning of the anxiety that I had. So I had I think as a lot of people do, 3 monthly scans, which were clear. So that was it. I'd had my operations. I went back to work. I worked full-time as a neurological specialist physio, so I was, and also a mum. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She was then 9 when I was diagnosed stage 3, so I was juggling mumming and working. Went back to work, had 3 monthly scans, but I wasn't fine. And inside my head, it felt like there was a permanently kind of ticking time bomb of, well, what's going to happen? I'm doing nothing. I know I've got cancer in my body, but there's nothing that's happening about this, and I felt that really, really hard. I felt as though when I was going down the line of this, I was losing motivation. I was losing drive. I felt really tired. I was a team lead of this amazing neurophysio team, and I just wasn't on it. I wasn't with it. I got to the point, actually, the last time I presented at something, I had a panic attack then on the way home. That's not going to happen, hopefully, this time. But I think everything had just got on top of me, and I hadn't really realised it at the time. So I went to Macmillan and had Macmillan counselling, and that was a real turning point for me, because I could vocalise my fears, which at the time were basically dying and leaving my 9-year-old daughter without a mum. And it also gave me permission to say no to things without guilt. I'm very good at going, yeah, I'll do that, I'll do this. Obviously haven't learnt that well at the moment. But Macmillan did give me permission to say no to things without feeling guilty, which I was originally very, very bad with. And one of those things I did was I went to my managers and just said, look, I can't cope with everything. I can't lead a team effectively, and I'm feeling guilty about that. Please, may I stop? And I think that's one thing that I've found brilliant about my managers, is that they were really supportive, but they needed it to come from me. What did I need? What did I need from them? And then they did support me. And then I hit stage 4. So 18 months of clear scans, everyone going, yeah, it'll be fine. It was really microscopic, yeah, it'll be fine. It won't go anywhere. It went somewhere, and it went quickly. I actually went from working to bedbound within a week. I was... I started to feel tired and bloated about probably a month before it spread, and I'd had clear scans. This is in August 2019. Clear CT scan, clear MRI scan. Everything was fine. Right at the beginning of September, I felt a lump on my pelvis. And I was lucky in that I could contact the plastic surgeon that had been following me up, and he had a cancellation slot the next day. By the next day, I had 7 lumps around my ribs and around my pelvis. By the end of that week, I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't eat, and breathing was difficult. I was really terrified. Telling my daughter and my husband that I was stage 4 is still the worst thing that I've ever done. And I went home on a huge amount of steroids. Scans show that I had numerous mets in both my lungs, in my spleen, throughout all of my thoracic and lumbar vertebrae, in my peritoneum around my tummy, on my ribs and my pelvis, in the muscles in my shoulder blade and my hip, innumerate subcutaneous mets, they covered kind of everywhere, and also 5 brain metastases. I went home that day and I wrote my will, my funeral plans and my letters, because planning my death meant I could concentrate on living. And then the fight began. And this isn't working. So my team, my oncologist is awesome. She is just brilliant. She sees the person before the patient. She asks how I am, how my daughter is, how my husband is. And then she'll talk clinically. She's just the best person ever. At that time, my BRAF status was unknown. The microscopic deposit they got wasn't big enough, I think, apparently for BRAF status. So I went straight on to Ipi-Nivo, and I did it quickly, which was great. I was really, really, really lucky. So I had 4 doses of Ipi-Nivo and tolerated them okay. Some side effects, but I tolerated them okay. And the scan I had after my 4 doses showed that there was a marked reduction in all of the mets, and the brain mets had gone. I continued with single Nivo, and a year later, September 2020, the PET scan showed I was in complete metabolic remission. Thank God. Side effects. And I think people who had immuno know these. So I had a few. I was lucky in the general scheme of things. I did have a few. I had a dry mouth and eyes. I had uveitis, which is like an inflammation of the eye membrane. I know there's, I can't see you at the moment, somebody out there with that. I had the Ipi skin rash, which is fun. Fatigue's a big thing, and I'm going to talk quite a bit more about fatigue. Painful joints and muscles, restless legs. At the end of my 4th infusion of the double immunotherapy, my thyroid flared, so I lost a lot of weight very, very quickly. I was very, very jumpy, and I hurt everywhere, and then it burnt out and left the building completely. I carried on with with the Nivo for 2 years, and I think as somebody mentioned, you can have that 1 dose and it knocks everything off. So I suddenly had 2 days of acute confusion, disorientation. I was wandering around the house. I wasn't answering my husband or my daughter at all. Didn't really know where I was. They went to work and school, so obviously that's normal for me. But I had these 2 days, and then I suddenly had left-sided weakness and an inability to speak. So I obviously self-diagnosed with a stroke, panicked, went into A&E, and actually it wasn't. It was adrenal insufficiency. It was found after a lot of scans and lumbar punctures and tests. The other side effect that I've had is vitiligo. So my before and after, as my husband's nan beautifully said, "Oh, you look like an alien, dear." So that was nice. So basically all the pigment in my skin has gone apart from randomly my fingers and the tops of my feet, and all of my hair, eyebrows, eyelashes are white, which caused my daughter, who was then 10 at the time, much hilarity. So she decided to colour them in for my immunotherapy sessions, which I think it kind of helped her and me cope with it, and it gave the nurses a laugh. The only slight issue is I forgot once and went to Tesco and wondered why everyone was smiling at me. So the next one I'm going to talk about is fatigue. Excuse me, sorry, dry mouth. Fatigue's a big thing. How am I doing time-wise? Okay, good. Fatigue's a really big thing for me, and it's been the most long-lasting side effect for me, and still is a big issue, and possibly for a few others in the room as well. It's not just feeling tired, it's a whole world of difference. And as a neurophysio, I'd spent 20-odd years talking about fatigue to my patients and fatigue management to my patients. And then I went back to work and I found a patient and I went, sorry, I had no idea, did I? No idea. And he went, not really, no, but thanks for trying. Do you want some tips? I was like, that'd be lovely. So what I was trying to do, I'll go on to the tips that we kind of found out a little bit later on, but what I was trying to do was find a good analogy, because I always use the battery ones. You know, you've got a certain battery life at the beginning of the day, and everything you do reduces that battery, blah, 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 which kind of works. But then I found a chap called Adrian Warnock, who's actually got blood cancer, and he gave what I thought was a really good description of fatigue. So I'm going to read it out. He calls it the 3 a.m. effect. At 3 a.m., healthy people typically feel an incredibly strong urge to go to bed or just find anywhere nearby to sleep. They can often keep themselves awake if they have to, however. They might laugh, smile, chat, or even try to revise or write something. But everything is much harder at 3 a.m. Your brain feels slower. You're emotionally drained and vulnerable. You might well get more irritable. People seem more annoying than normal. And everything is just so much effort. Everything within you is telling you to stop and rest, and yet somehow you carry on. Maybe your limbs even feel heavy. Perhaps you struggle to find words, or may even start talking nonsense. At 3 a.m, even doing simple tasks feels impossible. Imagine trying to work or do anything important. Imagine not really feeling you can trust your brain to work properly. And imagine now that everyone else around you is somehow not living at 3 a.m. Maybe you've travelled around the world and are experiencing jet lag. Your family, friends, or work colleagues, as much as they know you've got off a plane, don't really understand that for you it's 3 a.m, because for them it's the middle of the day. I have sudden bursts of mental energy which don't last long when I can get something done, but even then I still feel like I used to only feel at 3 a.m. I don't know if that resonates with anybody. So prior to my stage 4 and the treatment, I was a youngish, fit-ish neurological physio. I was kind of running 3 times a week. I was doing boot camp, I was doing HIIT workouts, I was working 5 days in a physical job. Since stage 4, there's some days I can go to work, I can treat a couple of patients, I can do the food shop, see a friend, chat with my husband, da 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 da. Some days everything hurts, and I mean everything. My skin hurts, my eyes hurt, my head hurts, my legs cramp, and I can't remember a thing. And I need to lie down after I have a shower, and getting off the sofa is a huge effort. Sometimes it's in response to a busy day. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, and I'm having to learn, frustratingly, to go with it. I'm going to talk about the list that my patient mainly came up with and I agreed with. So we're talking about pacing, and it's thinking about the battery theory. So if you've got a load of things to do in one day, then just kind of be realistic with yourself and know that they're probably not all going to get done to a high degree. I know that after this conference, I'm going to go home and do absolutely nothing tomorrow because I am going to feel shattered. Short breaks. This is when my patient came up. He said, have you not done the 2-minute nap after a shower? And I was like, But short breaks, so 10-minute cognitive and physical breaks, and the cognitive breaks being the telly off and the phone down and the lights off and everyone else can just go, Mine. So you can just rest completely, and it really does help to recharge. Diet. Keeping hydrated is a big thing for me. So drinking a lot of water. I drink a lot of water anyway because of a dry mouth, but drinking a lot of water. If I feel fatigued, the first thing I do is try and drink a litre of water, and it really does help. Slow release carbs. Cakes do help sometimes, but slow release carbs. Eating little and often as well, blood sugar wise, really help me. And obviously the nutrition for gut biome. Exercise does give me energy. I have a wonderful friend who nagged me beautifully. 3 times a week she would phone me on Zoom and make me do workouts. I was really grumpy, but actually it made me feel so much better just doing something little. And exercise can be literally just chair exercises or breathing exercises or going out for a walk or doing some gardening or something just to help with the fatigue. I think we've talked about before vitamin D levels. I think after melanoma diagnosis we all become vampires and stay away from the sun at all costs. So vitamin D is really important and does affect fatigue. Thyroid and adrenal function, as I found, just wipes you out completely. And I think certainly, I know my oncologist was saying she's looking for a tsunami now of adrenal issues coming with the immunotherapy. So I think that's something that people, if they're suddenly starting to feel really, really fatigued and really bleh, and ask for that 9 a.m. cortisol blood test as well. The other thing I found is that if I'm doing just the normal routine things in life, I'm fairly okay. I can trundle along. But anything else that comes in, any emotional stress, financial stress, which is huge, cognitive stresses, anything like that can throw me and makes me feel exhausted. And so within that, supports for dependence as well. It is tough. It's tough, but it's tough being a mum of a teenager anyway, but it's tough being a mum of a teenager when you know that the cancer has put them through, everything is put them through, and the impact of that is huge. And so it's trying to find the support for the stresses in your life, but also the stresses in other people's lives. So moving on to talk about the emotional impact. I love this book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. I don't know if people have seen it, but these two kind of cartoons, I don't know if you can read them because the font's a bit tricky, but the first one says, "I can't see a way through," said the boy. "Can you see the next step?" "Yes." "Well, then just take that." And the other one says, "Asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up." And that is a really big one for me because I was always a fixer. I did stuff for other people and then suddenly I couldn't. And asking for help has been a tricky one. So on to fear. So some people describe going through the experience of cancer as being on a roller coaster. Some people describe it as being in a snow globe. Everything is magnified and it's all a blur, and then peace comes before the next storm hits. Being given a terminal diagnosis, as I was, takes it to the next level. It becomes a marathon that you're sprinting, and you're running, but no one's told you the distance you're running, so you can't pace it. And it's exhausting, and it affects you, it affects the whole family, and it affects your friends. And my way of dealing with things has been to talk about it. And there is an awful lot of support out there, both from friends and family, but also from organisations. Big shout out to Melanoma Mates here. Thank you for picking me up from the floor. It's a Facebook group, and it's full of people who really get it, because I think most of you, probably a vast majority here, are from Melanoma Mates site, because they've got the unenviable position of going through it as well. So being able to talk to people, ask questions of people, and vent to people has been invaluable to me. Macmillan Counselling really helped me to talk openly about my fear of dying and leaving my daughter, my husband and my family and friends, but also the guilt about putting them through, watching me become poorly so quickly, and the roller coaster of everything that then goes on. Bottling up those feelings wasn't healthy, as I found at stage 3 of my panic attack, so I've had to find a way through counselling to go to that dark place and feel all those feelings, however painful they are, usually have a proper ugly cry somewhere, and then be able to shut the door on them and take a breath and turn my back on them. But then I make sure I try and do something for me that's nice. So whether that is just a walk on the beach, or having a posh coffee and cake, or just sitting in the garden, just something so I can pick up and get on with my life again. Scanxiety. Not me checking my phone at all, seeing as the results have come in. I've heard scanxiety as, I've heard scanxiety as being referred to, it's about the fear of the memory of that scan that you first got, as well as much as the fear of what it could be. And I do feel it's a good explanation, because it does bring back all the memories of that time I sat in my oncologist's office and got those initial results. I also know that if and when I get a bad scan, it's one less treatment option. The only way I have found to deal with it, fetching a photo of me in scanner, is distraction. If anyone else has got any good tips, that would be amazing. I like the water, as you can see. I like being outside, usually near the water. I generally just take myself off, bacon butty, coffee, bit of a cry on the beach, and just distract myself. Reading a book, watching TV, currently working my way through Friends for about the 9th time. But also being open with my family and my work colleagues that I am going to be a bit more flaky, and I am going to jump when the phone rings, and it's just deal with it, please, for me. And they are brilliant at it, I have to say. So navigating the challenges of living my life with stage 4. I'm still a mum, and I still need to work, but also I'm trying to cope with the side effects of the emotional side effects of melanoma, but also the adrenal side effects and the thyroid side effects and the fatigue side effects as well. This photo is of my daughter's first day at senior school, and also my immunotherapy and my scan day. And that was a day of heightened emotions all round, but I had to park mine and be mum for my daughter, who was probably on that scale more anxious than me that day. I think there has to be I don't think acceptance is a good word, maybe grumpy acceptance of a new normal. Life has changed and there will be a grieving process for the old cancer-free life. And I think it's important to allow that to happen, but also allowing yourself to find the good things in the new normal. There's always one good thing in a day, and it's even if it's, you know, just a nice cup of tea, or it's not raining, or something. There's one good thing in a day. Be your own advocate. You know your body and you know the changes in your body. So ask questions and ask them again if you don't get the answers, and write everything down. I'm very good at going in with questions. My oncologist is phenomenal at answering me. I don't write things down and then I forget by the time I've got to the car. So writing things down, or taking somebody with you as well. Learn about the diagnosis, and there's lots of websites, Melanoma Focus, Melanoma UK, and obviously your oncology team that you can ask for those. Ask for other opinions if you aren't getting answers. My oncologist is brilliant. If I ask her a question she doesn't know the answer to, she'll put the phone up and she'll ask one of her colleagues, which is exactly what I want. I don't want anyone kind of styling it out, pretending they know. She's great. And also ask for a treatment break if you need one. If you're going on holiday or you've got a wedding or something nice, then it's okay to put immunotherapy, I'm not being an oncologist here, but it's okay to put immunotherapy back a week or a couple of weeks, because it's your life and this is a long time that you're having treatment for if you're having immuno. So don't feel afraid to do that. Permission to say no, I've talked about. Asking for help if needed. One of my wonderful friends, when I asked her for the umpteenth time for a lift to one of my appointments, just said to me, Michelle, do you know how useless we all feel? We can't take this away from you, but we can help you. And so please ask us for help. And she gave me permission to ask for help, which I'll be forever grateful for her for. Bacon butty coffee on beach. Back to work. So about a year and a half after my diagnosis, partly because of COVID and I was patient-facing, so I couldn't go back to work, and partly because I just felt too rubbish to trust myself with my patients and not dropping them, bless them, I went back to work, and Ellie Skelly at work was pleased to see me. So I had a stage return to work. I had this big grief process. I couldn't be a physio anymore after 26 years of doing it. Then went back to work, did an hour, was knackered, felt sick, and then had the grief process about I'm going to be a really rubbish physio. But I've built it up kind of hour on hour, and it's just me again. I love it. It's kind of I'm back to doing what I'm doing, albeit only 2 half days a week, because the other times I'm knackered and tired and sleeping. You are covered by the Disability Act. Cancer is covered, so work do need to make reasonable adjustments as well. So if hopefully managers will be understanding, but I know that is not always the case. I've been very lucky with mine that they have been. Finances, the impact on finances is huge. I had a DS 1500 initially, so I had full PIP in ESA. I've outlived that now, and so now I haven't got anything. And I can only work 2 half days a week. So the stress on my husband has been enormous. He's having to earn all the money. We've had to change our lifestyle completely. And it certainly with cost of living expenses, it's very, very difficult to keep your head above water. Macmillan are great. CAB are great for giving advice. Department of Work Pensions, not going to go there. Where are we? Family. The impact of a cancer diagnosis on the patient is huge, but the ripples do spread unforgivingly. Spouses, children, parents, family and friends are all really affected and go through their own emotional reactions. So it's so important for family and friends to get support if you can. Support for children we found really hard, because it's a pandemic and there wasn't really anything out there. She'd only just changed schools, didn't want to be known as the girl with a mum who's got cancer at school, so she didn't want any from school, and there was nothing else around. We ended up paying for private psychology and counselling to help both my daughter and my husband. Exercise, just move. It kind of almost doesn't matter. I mean, Joe Wicks if you want, but it kind of almost doesn't matter what you do. Just get moving and keep doing it, and it really does help. It's actually been proven as well scientifically that it does reduce anxiety and increase. I can't see the amount of okay. It does reduce anxiety and it does help with fatigue as well. So even if you feel rubbish initially, then I would suggest just give it a go and keep going with it, but build it up gently. Diet. varied. So Heather Shaw was, I think, Dr. Heather Shaw did the talk a couple of years ago. She's brilliant. I've put the QR code and the link to that on the talk, all about gut biome and eating a diet high in prebiotics. I have mainly done that, also interspersed it with fish and chips, bacon butties and a bit of cake, because stage 4. You've got to enjoy life as well. And hobbies and interests, it's focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't do. There's, you know, I vaguely enjoyed going running. I can't do that. My mouth's too dry, so I'd be sipping water all of the time. My muscles hurt and I just can't cope with that. So I've had to find different things to do, but that's okay. There's different things out there. Last slide. So my last slide, I wanted to do a reflection. This has been the background in a couple of slides, and it's on one of the beach walks I took, this photo, and it made me think about, this is coming up for a year into my stage 4 diagnosis, so it was still before I got the complete response. And I wrote this, I spend time each day checking for lumps that have popped up with the knowledge that I went from one palpable lump to hundreds in a space of a few days. And I've had to find a way to go to that place and feel all the feelings, however painful, and purposefully shut the door on them, take a breath, turn my back on them to enable me to enjoy the time that I've got with my family and my friends. Most days I manage it, some days I don't. I think that's normal. I feel unbelievably lucky to have breathtaking support from my amazing husband, daughter and family and my utterly incredible friends. And I can also only shut that door because of the extraordinary help I've had from talking with, and also ugly crying on frequently, my oncologist, bless her, the amazing oncology nurses, and also in counselling with Macmillan and Melanoma Me, and in psychology sessions as well. I think mental health for this, and help for mental health for this, is so, so important, whether you're the cancer patient, or their family, or their friend. So looking at this slide, sometimes I'm on the left side of the sky, a bit cloudy, a bit stormy. Sometimes I'm happily on the right, all blue skies, and happy to be alive and to be loved. Often, if I'm honest, I'm the seagull on the post looking for food. The next slide is a bit of a sweary picture warning, and this is mainly for the melanoma mates in the room. I think you know what's coming. These are my rocks. They came about when I was first diagnosed stage 4, and I had to contest a refusal from my insurance company about my terminal illness claim. Through doing that, I knew my prognosis at the time because the type of cancer that I had was about 4 months-ish. That date is now known as my best before date. And to mark it, 2 of my wonderful friends made me banana bread, took me to the beach to shout sweary things into the wind, and made me these rocks. And these are for anyone going through a tough time. I've got the big one at the bottom with me, and that in particular goes to Artina.